Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc. Investigate murders, search for clues, and talk to your classmates to prepare for trial. There, you'll engage in a deadly wordplay, going back and forth with suspects. Dissect their statements and fire their words back at them to expose their lies. There's only one way to survive. Pull the trigger.
Incinerate.
No, that's wrong.
I'm just reading off the Steam bio. Created by Spike Chunsoft, originally released on the PlayStation Portable in Japan on November 25, 2010, later ported to iOS and Android in 2012, and finally releasing in North America on February 11, 2014. Danganronpa came out to amazing success, resulting in sequels, spin-offs, anime, manga, and even a novel. The concept of the killing game is amazing. Being trapped with your classmates with the only way to exit is kill and get away with it is a cool idea. With the game's 10th year anniversary here, let's look back at Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc, review the game, and see how it holds up 10 years later. The video is split into chapters, so feel free to skip to any part you like. The story summary will work more as a short recap rather than a full rundown, so if you haven't played the games, I recommend to watch this video by Ani Blackmage that explains what goes on pretty well. With that being said, let's start the video. Hope's Peak Academy, a school built to raise hope in the nation's future. In this school are ultimate students, those who are truly elite in their skills. In front of the school is our main protagonist, Makoto Naegi, the ultimate lucky student. As he goes in for a terrific first day, he blacks out and wakes up in the school. He makes his way to the main hall and meets his classmates for this semester. Kyoko Taka Ishimaru, ultimate moral compass. Toko Fukawa, ultimate riding prodigy. Sayaka Maizono, ultimate pop sensation. Leon Kawada, ultimate baseball star. Hifumi Yamada, ultimate fanfic creator. Aoi Ashihina, ultimate swimmer. Chihiro Fujisaki, ultimate programmer. Kyoko Kirigiri, unknown ultimate. Junko Enoshima, ultimate fashionista. Mondo Owada, ultimate bike gang leader. Sakura Ogami, ultimate martial artist. Byakuya Togami, ultimate affluent progeny. Yashihiro Hagakure, ultimate clairvoyant. And Celestia Ludenberg, ultimate gambler. They get an announcement to meet up at the gym where they find the headmaster of the school, Monokuma. He explains to them that they are forced to spend the rest of their lives in this school together. However, they can escape if they kill someone. Makoto reads the rules, goes to bed, gets motivated for murder, and meets up with an old friend of his, Sayaka, only for her to get killed the next day. Junko, tired of Monokuma's bullshit, decides to step up for herself, and instead gets 13 spears lunged into her. Makoto, being the prime suspect, decides to investigate and find the true culprit. After investigating for a while and befriending better girl Kyoko, Monokuma calls everyone for the class trial. Some know that's wrong, and now I got it later. The only person who could have killed her was Leon Kawada. Being correct in our judgment, Monokuma decides to punish Leon, meaning execution. Everyone watches as he dies and on to the next day. The second floor of the school opens, so they decide to explore but find no ways out. Bro bonding goes on, but nobody has died yet, so Monokuma gets bored and gives us a new motive. The next day, Byakuya and Makoto rush into the girls' locker room only to find Chihiro dead. Makoto investigates, talks to psycho girl Toko, learns the truth behind John Fortnite Kennedy's assassination, and Byakuya shows him a cool picture book containing a serial killer's victims, Genocide Jack. At the start of the trial, they discover psycho girl Toko has a split personality, Genocide Jill, and Chihiro was actually a boy. Some blame shifts later, and Mondo commits the fumble of the century as he slips up and reveals himself to be as the murderer. Punishment time happens, and on to the next chapter. This time, the school's third floor opens, but still no exit in sight. Hope is not lost, however, as they find a character AI version of Chihiro known as Alter Ego that can aid them in their quest of finding out what the hell is going on. Hifumi falls in love with the laptop, Taka turns Super Saiyan, and the two beef over their new buddy. Monokuma uses motion as his new motive. A few days go by, and Celeste informs them of an attack Hifumi suffered at the hands of Robo Justice. They split up to find this assailant, but instead find Hifumi dead on the first floor, Taka dead on the third floor, both of their bodies disappear, and find them back on the third floor. Makoto tries to investigate this hell of a mess, Robo Justice is found with Hiro wearing it, and trial time occurs. They found out Hifumi wasn't actually dead, rather he murdered Taka, played dead, then moved his body only to end up dead and betrayed by his accomplice, Celeste. She took the ultimate gamble and lost, so instead she got punished and burned/ran through alive. Post-trial, Kyoko tells Makoto of a hidden passage in the bathroom. He discovers it, gets stream sniped, survives, and goes to bed. Fourth floor opens. No new clues, you get the gist by now. Alter Ego discovers a cryptic file in the system discussing a plan to isolate the students at Hope's Peak in a communal life after the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. We connect Alter Ego to 5G Wi-Fi. Monokuma calls us to the gym and reveals to us that Sakura has been a traitor all along. Tensions start to rise. Hina tells us to come by the rec room and Sakura was found dead. Investigation time happens. Makoto conducts a 4th grade science experiment and draws an amazing floor plan. At the trial, Hiro admits to meeting and killing Sakura. Then Toko admits to meeting and killing Sakura, only for Hina to admit that she met and killed Sakura, only for them to find out that Sakura killed herself. Wow. With no real Blacken to finish, Monokuma instead decides to punish Alter Ego, turning him into a ball. Kyoko tells Makoto about the secret 16th student, Mukuro Ikusaba. The final floor of Hope's Peak opens up, but there's nothing to note, except for this one creepy bloody room that's there for some reason. Makoto's tummy hurts, so he decides to go to bed early and almost becomes the next victim until best girl Kyoko helps him out. Kinda. He wakes up and finds everyone dissecting Monokuma at the gym. With Monokuma deactivated, they decide to break into the headmaster's room, but Toko finds a body in the garden. They all rush over it and sure enough, it's a dead body, but upon taking off its mask, it blows up. With Kyoko being the only person absent, there can only be one conclusion. Makoto investigates and finds out that Byakuya, Toko, Hiro, and Hina were all together all night, leaving only him and Kyoko with no alibis. They enter her room, learn more about the 16th student Mukuro, read some books, and count chickens. Before trial time, Kyoko shows up out of nowhere, meaning that the victim must be Mukuro, with the only possible suspects being Kyoko and Makoto. They argue back and forth over who the killer is, until Kyoko acknowledges that this is a trap set by the mastermind and asks Makoto to put his faith in her. Makoto obliges, and before he could reveal the truth of this case, time's up. Voting time happens and Makoto is found guilty. Makoto was sentenced to punishment time, but before his class detention ran out, Alter Ego came in clutch and saved him. Kinda. He wakes up in a trash pit. Kyoko falls down sometime later and helps him escape. They escape and prepare to challenge Monokuma. Kyoko claims that the mastermind's trap didn't work because of Makoto's actions and Alter Ego, resulting in a mistrial that attempted to end his life. Makoto is not the killer, Monokuma is. Kyoko suggests a retrial for Mukuro, a final showdown of hope and despair. Monokuma agrees to her proposal, but only if they also figure out all the mysteries buried deep within the school. If they can do that, they win. But if they can't, they'll all face execution. Monokuma tells us that when the killing game started, it had 16 participants, all high school students, and the only people who have taken a step in Hope's Peak since the game started are those 16 students. With all said and done, they meet back with the others and start investigating. Makoto explores all the previously locked rooms, learns more about the school, finds Kyoko's dad, checks out some dead bodies, gets an odd picture, and watches some YouTube videos. Monokuma calls for the final trial and decides to participate. After looking back at all the facts and information they have accumulated throughout the whole game, there can only be one conclusion. Only 9 bodies were found in the biolab, but 10 people have died. The person who died was not Mukuro Ikusaba, it was Junko Enoshima, whose body was used to be murdered twice. But that's not all. Junko is the real mastermind, and the way she did it was by swapping places with Mukuro before the killing game started, to make it seem as if Mukuro was Junko. She murdered Mukuro, disguised as Junko, at the beginning of the game and later propped up her body to seem as if someone had killed her, when in fact she was already dead. The real mastermind is Junko Enoshima, the ultimate despair. Monokuma, backed into a corner, decides to give in and Junko arrives at the scene. Junko not only confirms everything Makoto has said to be true, and that Mukuro was her sister, but also reveals the outside world to have become a worldwide tragedy, thanks to the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history, caused by Junko. Makoto discovers that everyone has been hit with amnesia for the past 2 years of their life at Hope's Peak. Their memories were stolen from when they entered the school, and the whole time they were killing their close friends, only to escape to an outside world filled with despair. What was once supposed to be a shelter of hope became a cage of despair, with the killing game being broadcasted all over the world. While everyone in the room was filled with absolute despair over figuring out the truth, Junko calls voting time. This time, the rules are different. Junko won't vote. Rather, if one person decides to punish hope, everyone will be forced to live in the school for the rest of their lives. But if they all decide to punish despair, then Junko will die and everyone gets to leave the school. Despite everyone filled with despair, Makoto clings onto hope and pulls everyone out of the clutches of despair. Hiro, Hina, Toko, Byakuya, and Kyoko. Makoto figures out that within him was a hidden power, the power to stand up against the ultimate despair as the ultimate hope. Everyone votes to punish despair, and as a result, Junko is found guilty. Junko savors her defeat, as she has done so much and killed so many, only to have failed at the very end fills her with true despair. She calls punishment time and punishes herself and Monokuma in the ultimate punishment, a combination of all the previous punishments into one. Junko dies, Monokuma is gone, and the key to leave Hope's Peak was lying on the floor waiting to be picked up. In the end, they made it to the front door. Despite knowing that the outside world is gone and steep with despair, everyone holds on to their hope of what's to come. They prepare themselves. Makoto feels everyone's hope spreading. Since he has hope, he could show courage. He can move ahead. The world can move ahead. The door began to open. With their hands, hope and despair mingled together, opening the door to the future. To analyze this, I'm going over from start to finish how I feel about the story. Because of how the game is set up, I'll be analyzing the game based on each chapter. Each chapter is split into 3 sections: Daily Life, Deadly Life, and Class Trial. I'll also be ranking every class trial and execution because why not? The epilogue starts off nicely. It throws you right into a punishment without knowing what punishment time is. The punishment itself is cool, going up to space and back down dead, but to be honest, it feels more tame than the later ones you see, especially considering how you have no idea what's going on until you see his bones. D tier. As for the rest of the epilogue, it's alright. There's nothing of real importance I want to note here since it's all setting up the story stuff. I like how you're given the chance to meet each student, their ability and personality. You know, so you can start liking them. So when they die a few hours later, you feel miserable. Monokuma's announcement followed by his appearance gives this eerie feeling that works well with the story. Other than that, I think it's a solid epilogue. Chapter 1 is a great first chapter. You slowly start getting used to this new life Makoto must live, and Sayaka gives off the tutorial girl vibes. Her death kinda came as a shock because even though you know she might be the first one out, it still feels weird. Seeing that kitchen knife lodge into her stomach and pink blood for the first time sets off what's to be expected with the rest of the game very well. Junko's death felt random but deserved, and makes sense from a story perspective. I like how Makoto quickly gets over Junko's death and goes straight back to simping over Sayaka. Well, I guess he is the main suspect, but still, she just died in front of you with 1,000 spears inside of her, and you're just like, okay, let me go back to Sayaka, I guess. The game starts pushing you towards new girl Kyoko as your guide, and this can be seen more throughout the chapters. The investigation gives you subtle clues on whom it may be without telling you the answer to keep the mystery. Except for these 5 numbers on the wall. Even though it's really obvious it's supposed to be Leon and the game could have made it less obvious, stuff like this goes over most people's heads when they first start playing the game, even me. I get that the game's first language isn't English, but it still kinda sucks with how easy that clue is. The first trial's pretty easy too, but holy shit, you start to realize how dumb half the cast is, and somehow 2 of the most dumbest people here are survivors? The way you figure out Leon as the killer through his talent is pretty cool, and I'm sure this is the only trial in which they use their ultimate talents as a way to commit and find out the murderer. I wish there were more trials that used their ultimates more clearly, but I can understand why they didn't. On a side note, Sayaka and Leon are an iconic duo for me. Outside of the game, they're promoted side by side often, and it just feels like bread and butter. One can't be without the other. They both belong in hell. Leon's excuse for murdering Sayaka will always feel desperate, and I love it. The feeling of, oh shit, now what, for the first time is unnerving. Leon's execution? Chef's kiss. Amazing. They could have not done better whatsoever. As the first real execution, and not just the game, but the series, it's really good. The nervous look he has, being dragged away, slowly seeing his final destination, and being plummeted to death with balls in front of the whole class is amazing. His execution always gives me chills no matter how many times I see it, even to this day. S tier. The case? C tier. It's a great first case, but it had its both good and bad moments. I think whatever chapter 1 did, chapter 2 did much better. It continues story building around these characters who are going to be very important later on. I think it shows off Byakuya's cocky behavior very well, and Toko just being annoying. A new floor opening with each trial that goes on is a brilliant way of continuing to build on top of what's already been set. With 3 people dead, the story does start to feel a bit more uncanny as everyone, including the player, are trying to hold themselves together after what just happened. Monokuma's new motive is interesting, as you would expect people not to kill each other over a petty secret at a time like this. Like Makoto pissing the bed. It ain't that bad. I wish we got to see everyone else's secret though, especially Taka's. He seems like a good guy who got a good scare. Chihiro's death was unexpected and pretty creepy too. The whole hanging body thing with bloodlust written on the walls caught me so off guard. The trial itself was great. There were some really dumb moments, but I love how deceiving the game could be. It makes you think, oh, Toko killed her. Then, okay, Byakuya killed her. Then, holy shit, Mondo did what to him? I'm still pissed at Mondo committing the biggest fumble of the century to this day. Like, I knew there were some other clues that made Mondo sus, but like, come on man, he almost had it in the bag. Him admitting defeat was very bro-like, and I respect that. By the way, Taka and Mondo, yeah, it's like that odd best friends you see down the hall and you're like, they're besties, but I mess with it. Monokuma telling his secret right before his death was petty, and Mondo's execution is cool. Not as cool as Leon's, but I liked it more than the Headmaster's. I think it would have been better if there was more bloodshed to these executions like the first one, but I laugh every time I see Mondo Butter, and as Pancake Camilo, seeing Monokuma eat Mondo Buttered pancakes, I have to give this execution a B tier. The trial itself goes on B tier as well. It's a pretty solid and deceptive trial with some great twists like Mondo being the killer or Chihiro being a boy. Oh, that's right, Chihiro is a boy. See, Danganronpa loves to do this thing where they start to give minor characters great character development only to end up as the next victim. I feel like it was very unfortunate as Chihiro would have been a great ally in the endgame and have amazing character development. So, he just had to die. The third chapter is confusing as hell. The third floor opens, but to be honest, it's nothing too special. Makoto also ends up finding these strange photos around the school. When I saw those pictures for the first time, I thought everyone who dies goes to a special heaven or something, or maybe it's all a show and they're just having fun. I was sorta right. Monokuma's new motive is whack. $10 million. I mean, to murder and escape, $10 million would set you up for a while, but like, 10 million? I don't want to raise the standards or anything, but 10 mil? I think something higher would have been better, like 50 mil or 100. For a high school girl who took over the world and trapped ultimate high school students with a talking robot bear, you would assume she would have more than just $10 million to spare. But those 10 million did drive Celeste to murder, so it worked out in the end. Alter Ego is a cool character that I really like since I wish Chihiro's character arc would live on just for a bit longer, so this did it well enough for me. Hifumi and Taka's beef were hilarious. While Hifumi falling in love with an AI version of his dead male classmate was weird, Taka going from depressed to Super Saiyan was surprising. Because of their beef, Taka or Hifumi dying seems most expected, but Hifumi dying, then Taka, then disappearing, and finally reappearing both dead is so shocking and confusing to me. Looking back at it, Celeste was acting very suspicious, but I didn't notice it at all. Hiro becoming the main suspect was sorta surprising, and the whole look at this quirky group with this quirky suit scene kinda took away from the investigation. The trial itself was once again absolute brain rot and 1000 IQ Among Us plays. This was the second most confusing trial in the whole game, mostly because of how the murder played out. I mean, the game literally went over the order of the murder at least twice. It's a love-hate relationship. I love how smart this case can get, but oh my god, this trial can get hella dumb and stupid. In the end, Celeste took the ultimate gamble and it almost worked out. Unfortunately for her, Kyoko. C tier. I like her execution mostly because of how she dies. Visually, it's impressive. The Monokuma costumes look cool and the music fits well. The whole witch thing kind of felt out of place since she never had any witch-like qualities other than looking like one and gambling. Being burnt at a stake is a foreign form of punishment, not often used today. Celeste's whole character, how I interpret it, was trying to be different. She wanted the $10 million so she could have her own castle and vampire butler boyfriends. Instead, she wishes to be reincarnated as Marie Antoinette just to be executed again. Instead of having a unique death, she dies from one of the most common ways to die, a car accident. Her wanting to be different to the very end, only to have that uniqueness taken away from her in death is awesome. B tier. Chapter 4 is really good. You would think that 3 trials later, those who are alive are the smartest, most stable ones left, but that is far from the truth. Nothing to know from the 4th floor. Other than Kyoko getting pissed at Makoto over a secret. Listen, I get it. You and Makoto have been hitting it off really well lately. You first had that cold, chilling, yandere look in your eyes, and now you've become soft and fond of Makoto. And I understand. Makoto is a sweet but pushing guy, trying to be buddy-buddy with everyone while staying honest to himself. And I admire that about him. And I admire that you see that about him too. But oh my god, him keeping a secret doesn't mean you're gonna suddenly become the next victim. Like, I get that she told him his secret, so it's unfair that he didn't tell her his, or that she doesn't think he trusts her. But in a situation like this, I feel like Makoto did the right thing here. He is unsure about what he saw and he would rather confirm it for himself before he causes more drama. And when confronted by Kyoko, it's complicated to explain to her without saying what's really going on, but god damn it Kyoko, let the man keep a secret until he's more comfortable enough to tell you. When you were gone for a while, he asked you what you were doing and you wouldn't tell him. Then you asked for his help, which he said if you tell him what you were doing, he would help you, and you still said no and demanded help. But now you're mad because he doesn't want to tell you something, which, might I add, she doesn't even ask him if he has a secret, she just figured it out based on his his looks. Like, what detective bullshit is that? And now suddenly you're mad because he doesn't want to tell you right here, right now? And what's worse is that you're pissy at him throughout the whole rest of the chapter until Monokuma shoves another motive up her ass. Like, only now you understand why he didn't tell you. This is just some stupid plot point bullshit. When she finds out that Makoto was keeping the secret to protect Sakura from false accusations, she not only apologized, but says she may have overreacted. Like, yeah, of course you did. No shit. I can't even blame her. If I was in her situation, I'd probably act the same way. Anyways, yeah, 4th floor no-go, and Monokuma uses Sakura being the spy as his next motive, which is cool, I guess, or whatever. I mean, rather than using something like secrets or money, using betrayal as the motive, increasing tension amongst the remaining group is pretty clever. Oh yeah, Sakura died. I love how many little clues there are that can be seen in the first few minutes alone, yet you're so oblivious to them on your first playthrough. Sakura dying was sorta expected, but like the rest, shocking no less. Let me get something straight. I love this case. I love the direction, deception, twists, reveals, and story behind it all, but oh my god do I hate the investigation. You would think that by now, the last remaining students are the brightest of the bunch, but no! Makoto believes Hiro when he dropped the candy with the same wrapper Sakura got 30 minutes ago and said it was irrelevant. He conducts a science experiment with Kyoko to find out that there's 2 bottles instead of 1, which is pretty obvious. And he obeys Byakuya's bossy commands to draw a floor plan and show how the culprit only went to section A when you could clearly see that he did. Stupid stuff like this took a few minutes each just to show something that could be explained in seconds, and took so much out of the investigation experience, only to make it up with the best case ever. The blame shifts from Hiro to Toko to Hina to Sakura? That's insane! Everything from the locked room mystery to who headshot Sakura in what order is amazingly brilliant. I love seeing Byakuya get so cocky only to fumble at her absolute intelligence. There's a reason why this was the case ported into VR. A tier. Punishing alter ego was a nice twist I think no one saw coming, which is why it's very surprising to see him turn into a ball. Fitting punishment, B tier. What a beautiful mess of a chapter. Chapter 5. The chapter I'm pretty sure everyone either loves or hates. Personally, I'm more on the neutral side of things. Now we're actually down to our final few survivors, which is basically the same group we had before except with a dead Sakura. Since Sakura is gone, everybody can now be besties with each other until another body shows up. This time, I have something to say about the final floor of Hope's Peak Academy. I really like the layout. The big empty halls with huge room gives that approaching endgame type feel for some reason. Also, this room. Even when I replayed the game a few weeks back, I was shocked when I saw this room. The whole game you get used to pink blood so much, so when you see this red slashy blood, it's surprising. It doesn't get explained much until the anime, but still, damn, what a mystery. The rest of the chapter is cool. It has that now we're approaching the end game feel that some games pull off really well. Makoto taking the knife and being attacked by the masked vigilante again scares me so badly because this man had an attempt on his life 2 times in a row now. Like with how he's been acting so carelessly and following orders, I'm surprised he hasn't gotten his dumbass killed yet. Kyoko carry is nice, but without knowing anything about the case, it's so confusing. Like, I thought Kyoko was the killer, or he killed her, or it killed her, or he killed it. Disassembled Monokuma was a nice surprise, but we saw Monokuma blow up and come back brand new 5 seconds later. Why do you think breaking down one of these is gonna stop anything? No, seriously, how are these the survivors of the killing game? This whole investigation and trial is confusing, the most confusing in the whole game. For this reason, many people tend not to like the trial and dismiss it as one of the worst. While I agree it is probably the lowest in the game, I don't think this case is bad at all. The whole point of the case was a trap made by the mastermind to confuse the students and cause a mistrial to end Kyoko's life. The case at this moment was supposed to be impossible to solve, so trying to solve the mystery now was not gonna happen. I mean, sure, the investigation with Byakuya is annoying and slow, but the trial itself felt rushed and unsolvable, which since it was its goal, it achieved it pretty well. I'd give it a C tier, mostly since there are some really obvious parts that had to be explained due to gameplay reasons, but like, come on, really? Kyoko died and the Kyoko right next to him is a ghost? I wish the game was more self-aware of bullshit moments like these.
Then that's that. The dead body doesn't belong to Kyoko.
Which should have been obvious since she's standing right here.
Makoto being the black one was wild. I thought maybe he did do it and now we get to watch from Kyoko's perspective. I love his execution. It feels so bland but terrifying at the same time. It really captures Makoto's character. He's just a regular student who got lucky and now his luck has run out. A fitting end like this matches him pretty well, and the trash compactor violently dropping, slowly getting closer is such a nice detail. Honestly, this is a B tier execution for me, mostly since we don't get to see him die. However, if Makoto decides to stop simping, he catches Kyoko in her lie and she gets the same execution. Maybe Monokuma originally planned to use this for Kyoko and switched it with Makoto, or maybe they both have the same execution because it's supposed to be a wacky, non-canon ending, but I feel like it falls flat compared to being used on Makoto. The execution, no matter how much I like it, fits Makoto's character because of who he is and what talent he has, not Kyoko. That's like using Byakuya for Mondo's execution. It makes no sense because it's not supposed to be his. Still, it's a cool execution, so C tier I guess. Some Makoto Naegi plot armor later and down the drain he goes. No, seriously, how did he survive that fall? Kyoko being the ultimate detective was a cool reveal, but not so surprising. The whole confronting Monokuma scene will always be great. It's our two main characters standing up against the evil antagonist and challenging him into a final showdown duel. What an amazing way to start the final chapter. Kyoko's arguments for Monokuma to accept the challenge will always impress me. I would have never thought about them, but it makes so much sense, and his sudden change in tone from serious to bear puns is chilling. This truly feels like we have reached the endgame. The final investigation with the Box 16 song will always feel so hype. Using Box 16 in the last case also added onto its endgame feel, but here it's for real. Investigating all the previously locked rooms was such a blast, and seeing the second floor of the dorms gives me the creeps. Monokuma's actions serving as hints and distractions is so in character. If you showed 14-year-old me the gym clip from the beginning and then Makoto with Monokuma alone, I would have lost my shit. The final call for trial and walking towards the big red door one last time feels amazing. You gathered all the clues and it's now or never to finish the final battle between hope and despair. The trial was incredible. Using Genocide Jill to confirm the outside world was so smart. The part I really love about this case is seeing how easy it is to find the truth. The real battle was keeping our hopes together after knowing what we've done to each other over the past few days. It's incredible. Makoto becoming the ultimate hope is so cool, and him having a voice line to absorb and use is amazing. When the opening cutscene song plays as Makoto takes down Junko with hope in his friends is incredible. A tier. Junko fails, yet as for character she loves the feeling of failing as it brings her true despair. Her execution feels both great and sloppy. It's an ultimate combination of all the other ones combined, but at the same time it's just all the other ones combined. What I really love about this execution is right before she gets squished, she looks up and blam! Dead all over. I really love that detail. B tier execution. Everyone, scared about what might happen next, holds on to their hope of what's to come. It feels both despair-like and hopeful, which I love. What a fitting conclusion to this wacky game. I didn't know where else to add this, but after each trial there was a Marvel Studios post-credit scene teasing what's to come in the next chapter. I like these as it keeps the player wondering, wait a minute, spy? Kyoko? Secret room? More Kyoko? And it's pretty neat. The ending being open to interpretation is also neat. I probably wouldn't have liked it as much if we didn't have the sequel or the anime, but overall, the story is pretty good. Like stated before, the game splits between daily life and deadly life. Majority of the game is spent like a visual novel, clicking A or X or whatever to progress on to the next dialogue. To spice things up, the game has a follow-up button on certain keywords called reaction, where you would press a button on purple text to react to what was just stated. It's a cool way to keep the player engaged and feel like they're part of the story. However, sometimes it just kinda gets annoying. The first time you get purple words, it's cool, but after a while you either loop back the same dialogue or click on the purple word whenever it pops up. It doesn't feel too engaging since it only happens often and you have no control over what word is highlighted. Cool idea, but it gets boring after a while. During most of daily life, it's a linear path towards what to do next. You'll sometimes be given free time, where you could spend time with someone of your choosing. I really like free time as it allows two main things to happen. One, you grow attached to these characters, learning who they are, what they like, their aspirations, goals, dreams, and form a strong bond with them just to see them murdered 2 days later. The second thing it allows you to do is either increase your SP or gain a new skill. It's a cool way of gaining new skills without having to buy them from a shop or anything. Speaking of a shop, there's a Monokuma store where you could spend mono coins and buy items. During your playthrough, you investigate the world around you, and being curious is often rewarded in some mono coins. You could also gain mono coins through completing trials, with how well you've done being how much you get. These mono coins unlock special items outside of the main game, or it can be spent on the mono machine and gamble away all your savings. With each coin you add into the machine, the chance of getting a duplicate present decreases. With each present you get, the duplicate percentage increases, so you'll have to strategize your coin to present ratio for maximum profit. The presents you get can be given to people who you spend time with. Giving characters certain presents will strengthen your bonds faster. Information about each character is written down in the report card section of your student e-handbook, which is nice. Speaking of the e-handbook, in there you can check the map, truth bullets, presents, report cards, regulations, and settings. Nothing important to note here, but I really like how they set it up. The camera controls can be a bit janky at times, but it's nothing too bad. Other than that, you can walk, talk, explore, fast travel, and that's about it. However, this is not where the story ends. After a body's been discovered, you start investigation time. It's similar to daily life, but this time you search for clues that can help you find the culprit. There's a button you can press which highlights everything in the room you can examine. This is a lifesaver, as sometimes you don't know what you can or cannot check, so having this feature really helps. Whenever something of use comes up, you gain a truth bullet. You can check these in the truth bullet section of your student e-handbook at any time, which is pretty helpful. Where the gameplay shines the most is the class trials. You get some pre-trial prep before you start where you can go over the truth bullets and set skills. This part is awesome. It feels like you're getting mentally prepared to take down the killer, and I love it. After you finish preparations, the trial begins. Most of the trial is voice acted, which is amazing. I keep the game on auto since it works pretty well. The player gets health and stamina in the forms of influence and concentration. In my opinion, brilliant ways of incorporating gaming elements into trial. Each trial has 4 minigames. First is non-stop debates. Peers talk back to back with no breaks, stating their thoughts and opinions. You have a certain set of truth bullets you can rotate through, and yellow text which reveals potential weak spots in their argument. Match the correct truth bullet to the statement and...
No, that's wrong.
Sometimes there'll be white noise surrounding the argument. You must take them down before contradicting a statement or else they'll block your argument. Sometimes you'll need to slow down and concentrate on someone's statement to allow for an easy counter. Other times you might not have the right truth bullet, however you can absorb someone else's statement and make it your own to find new contradictions. These gameplay mechanics that make up non-stop debates are perfect. The way you refute, absorb, concentrate, and object is amazing. The "no, that's wrong" followed by a perfect rebuttal is so iconic, I love it. Hangman's Gambit is like looking into the mind of when someone's thinking while coming up with a word. Letters flow as you hit them and see if they match the statement below.
Now I understand.
In concept, I love it, but in game, it's a bit too easy. Most of the time you already know what the word is, so it gets annoying trying to match things together. You could also fast forward here, and same goes for non-stop debates, which is a nice time saver. Speaking of time, you're also timed throughout most of the minigames, which is both confusing but understandable. Confusing because who the hell needs this much time to figure out who done it? But at the same time, on first playthroughs, it might take a while to find the contradiction. Plus, if you misfire or hit the wrong statement, you'll have to wait a few seconds to loop back. Bullet Time Battle, also known as BTB, is your average rhythm game squished between someone's murder trial. When someone refuses to listen to a single goddamn word you say, you can challenge them in DDR, where you would tap on beat to lock onto their statements and tap to destroy them. You can break multiple at a time, and later game will have to tap to refill ammunition. The goal is to lower all their health, get the right truth bullet, and present the final piece of evidence.
This should prove it.
Concentration comes back, but as fever time and negative time. When the opponent uses negative time, your tempo marker disappears, making it harder to tap. Meanwhile, if you use fever time, you can tap to your heart's content consequence free. Honestly, I really like this minigame. A lot of people don't like it because they suck at video games or don't understand how it works, but I understood it from the get-go since it's not too complicated and I really like how it works. It feels climactic at times. They won't listen to a word you say, so you gotta shove some truth bullets up their mouth. But I find it funny from a story perspective since if you lose, it's like you're on the right track but now suddenly you're wrong and you're the culprit and everyone dies. When you fail, you get a timer for some reason, and if you decide to try again, you pick up right where you left off, which is kind of pointless since it's basically infinite retries, but hey, it's a time saver, so no complaint from me. Sometimes you'll be presented with a question which you'll answer by either using truth bullets or 1 out of 3 options.
I got it.
It's a nice way to keep the player engaged while not throwing them into another non-stop debate. If you answer correctly, you'll heal half a heart from your influence gauge, which is a creative way to heal in this game. To accuse someone of murder, you choose their character portrait and fire away.
Here's my answer.
I like this method of selecting someone. It looks and feels impactful. The final minigame is one of my favorites, Closing Argument. Once you reach the climax of the case, you put together a manga-style comic of what happened. The game gives you subtle hints and clues as to which piece goes where. When the comic is completed,
Here's exactly what happened.
Makoto gives his climax reasoning. I used to binge watch all the closing arguments back in 2020. I love this part of the game so much. When that's done, you'll get a report card telling you how well you did. I really like the whole school theme aspect to it. It's pretty innovative for a murder visual novel, and I love going through the cases. I just wish they were a bit harder from both a gameplay and a story perspective. Danganronpa has a phenomenal soundtrack, which has that PS Vita feel to it. Quickly going through some of my favorites from the OST. Trigger Happy Havoc is a classic that captures what the opening cutscene should feel like. Danganronpa has that chill vibe to it, which I really like. All Punishment songs are iconic. You hear this on a theme park ride, you better run. I love how Beautiful Days and Beautiful Death are polar opposites of each other. The hope and despair poured into a song. Beautiful Death is such an amazing song with a chilled, laid-back instrumental that works really well as background music. Beautiful Morning is such a good song that feels so despair-like, but lively at the same time. Box 15 and 16 are amazing. Personally, I like Box 15 more, but these work incredibly well as investigation themes. I just wish the songs wouldn't reset every time you get a new truth bullet. All the Class Trial songs slap. My favorite is Argument Turn Up the Heat. When I think of Danganronpa, I think of this song. Break, Chaos, and The Sun are really good ones too. Underground Trial is a perfect trial prep theme. Distrust, To Survive, Welcome to Despair, and Boy's Life of Despair are both despair-filled songs that fit the despair theme so well. Despair pollution noise music will forever give me PTSD. All BTB themes are really good rhythm themes, with my favorite being the super version since it has a nice kick to it, especially when you include the ding 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 sound effect. All-Star Apologies has that sorry for what happened post-trial feel to it, which I really like. Both Despair Syndromes feel really unsettling, and Mr. Monokuma's Afterclass feels like pure chaos, along with a 100-mile junk food dash. Mr. Monokuma's Lesson is such an amazing song. At first, you hate it, but then you start growing into it. I love the sound effect that plays at the start and middle of the song, along with the vocal dude going off. It's so good. Hangman Gambit slaps. It really feels like a time to think theme. New World Order sounds like it's made out of hope. Whenever I hear it in game, I feel inspired and hopeful. Climactic Reenchantment is the perfect song to use when retelling the events of the case. This song is astonishing as it fits flawlessly as the climactic theme. And my favorite song from the soundtrack, Closing Argument. This song is perfect. It feels both filled with hope and despair. Everything from the instrumental to the loop is unreal. The part of the game in which the song plays is amazing too. It fits the mood just right. Words can't describe how outstanding this song is. The drawing, comics, and court theme did not have to go this hard, but I'm glad it did. It's safe to say that Trigger Happy Havoc's soundtrack is a classic masterpiece. As of editing this video, I've noticed something in one of my favorite songs. I'm a sucker for leitmotifs. I really love them, and throughout Danganronpa, there's a couple of leitmotifs that are sneakily hidden. The ones I mainly know about are in some trial themes and a couple of argument ones. But one that I just found out about that blew my mind was between New World Order and Closing Argument. Both songs have the same background elements to it with the piano and the dun 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 part that repeats. And while looking back at it, I realized that New World Order and Closing Argument are kind of like polar opposites of each other. New World Order is the hopeful song that pushes forward. Closing Argument is looking back in the past to that despair. Both songs carry leitmotifs from each other, and honestly, that just blew my mind. New World Order instantly jumped to one of my favorite songs from the whole soundtrack. The visual art style for this game is really good. I don't know what it is, but seeing these anime boys at each other's throats fits well with Danganronpa's theme. A fair bit of the game uses pixel art, which is neat since this is a killing game. The character portraits followed up by occasional story related art works pretty well. Walking around Hope's Peak, visual and graphic wise, everything looks neat. Some areas do seem more flat than others, but it feels appropriate with the game's 2D setting. Every time you enter a room, you watch it unfold, which is nice visually. It's probably important to know how this game was made for the PlayStation Portable, which would explain some graphic choices, and when it was ported onto later consoles, they made it look nice while still keeping that PSP feel. To me, this game will always feel more like a PSP Vita rather than a PSP. I feel like the definitive way to play Danganronpa would be on original PS Vita hardware with a fresh copy of the game. Whenever you investigate something, a colored question mark shoots towards the object before the camera pans in and observes what you are looking at. When you talk to people, they bounce when the question mark hits them. This little detail goes a long way. It's really cool to look at. Tiny visuals such as the background music at the top right and the chapter with time at the top left is also neat. The class trial looks amazing. Everyone is standing up against 16 podiums. The characters are still 2D, yet they feel so alive. The visuals in non-stop debates, Hangman's Gambit, bullet time battles, and closing arguments look amazing. When the camera flips behind someone or spins around, showing off the remaining characters battling it out feels and looks so cool. The portraits of dead classmates in trial is such a neat touch. I love this game's visual direction. The punishment time cutscenes are wonderful. They keep that 2D feel to it while still feeling engaging and looking good. Honestly, I don't know how they pulled off this visual style so well. Oh, and pink blood. The pink blood is so iconic and honestly matches the game's aesthetic perfectly. I can't possibly explain how perfect pink blood fits with Danganronpa. It's both unique and impressive. Here I'll be talking about things I like and dislike about the game, along with stuff outside the main story. Once you beat the game, you could reload to certain chapters and choose between starting from the beginning or the class trial. I love it when games make it easy to replay fan favorite moments. Under the extras menu is a couple of tabs. The event gallery allows you to savor a heaping handful of cutscene images. The movie gallery lets you feast your eyes on an array of movie clips. The artwork gallery has you consume a multitude of artwork. The sound gallery lets you revel in a collection of music samples. And the school store permits you to try your hand at the almighty Mono machine. All these extras require mono coins to use, but it's still worth it, and it's a really cool part of the game. After beating the game, you also get access to school mode, a what-if situation. Enchanting Dangan Academy, Purely Prismatic Souls, is a side game where the same thing happens in the main game, except Monokuma forgot to bring up backup versions of himself. So instead of having us kill each other, we live in harmony as we gather resources and clean the school to build stuff Monokuma tells us to. It's a nice side game that not only gives you challenging goals that will take multiple attempts to beat, but also allows you to finish up all your report cards, including your dead friends. It's a solid side game that you could sink some hours into. Apparently Monomi shows up in one of the endings. I'm not sure why since she's from the second game, but whatever. At the end of the credits, Monokuma has this "I always come back" post-credit scene in the original game. It makes no sense from a story perspective, but I kinda like it. The game's theme of hope versus despair is unique. I think it fits well and it's pretty interesting. Let me talk about the chapter setups for a sec. I really like the way they separated each chapter. I think splitting it between living to dead and trial is a neat way of setting up sections of the game. The bloody visuals you get, along with a strange voice saying Danganronpa, really goes a long way when you're set in this killer school. One thing I think is odd about it though are the chapter titles. For example, To Survive is good. Boyd's Life in Despair is a great title for the second chapter's theme. All-Star Apologies is really good too. But a next generation legend stand tall galactic hero? 100-mile dash pain of a food junk junkie? I get that junkie means junko, but think about it for a sec. 100-mile dash pain of a food junk junko. That still makes no sense. For real though, who thought this was a good title for the final climactic chapter of the game? I love Monokuma's design. He's such a cool little troll. I just can't get mad at him. I mean, I know he sort of caused all these ultimate high school students to kill each other, but just look at him. I can't get mad at this little fella. His black and white design with one red eye is so cool. I'm glad they gave us this bear over his old design. I really like the characters in this game. Although most of them suffer from starting character development and then dying 2 seconds later, the remaining 6 students are great. I'm glad these are our survivors, despite how stupid they are. Chihiro alter ego is sick. Makoto is such a sweet little dude. You start warming up to Byakuya, and Kyoko's my favorite. At the end of each chapter, you get this cool visual where you see the remaining characters. I think it's pretty cool as you get this feeling of who's still alive and who's not here with us anymore. You also get this to be continued screen. I never understood why they made this a thing, since after beating each chapter you go, oh cool, on to the next one. The item you get whenever you beat a chapter is neat though. It's a cool way of showing, hey look, you survived. Here's your dead robot friend. The difficulty in this game is uniquely weird. It's split between logic and action difficulty, with 3 options being gentle, kind, and mean. I get that these replace easy, medium, and hard, but playing on a game mode called kind sounds too easy, but playing on mean sounds really hard. The main difference between them is how much random bullshit gets in your way, ranging from giving you more than a revolver's full of truth bullets to no white noise. To reset all your settings, you hit execute, which is cool. The opening cutscene is amazing. The song that plays combined with its visuals makes a killer opening. I wish it was less spoiler heavy as it does show Leon getting baseball to death. The ending cutscene is cool too as we traverse through the memories we made along the way. The amount of foreshadowing in this game is insane. Just to quickly mention some, Taka checking his watch the night before his murder shows it working before he died. Every time Monokuma mentions people demanding things refers to the outside world. Mondo calling Chihiro dude despite him not being established as a boy. Hifumi mentioning everyone by their last name so Yasuhiro does not refer to the clairvoyant boy. The body discovery announcement 3 only going off once since only one person is dead. Robo Justice looking very much like something Hifumi would make. Hifumi labeling the nameless assailant Robo Justice, but later the blueprints say Robo Justice despite never being clarified. Junko looking different at the beginning of the game and having freckles because she's actually Mukuro. Monokuma mentioning the rules apply to him too because he's secretly a student. Mukuro having old wounds makes you think it's because she's the ultimate soldier, but it's actually because she got speared 4 chapters ago. And the courtroom having 16 seats but only uses 15 because the 16 students controlling Monokuma. These details are some that I noted while replaying the game. It's impressive how most details are just right at you in the face, but you never notice them until they finally reveal themselves. Other things I noticed are Kyoko and Byakuya love knowing what's going on mid-trial, but passing it on to Makoto like, what?
Makoto, why don't you explain it?
The trial movements often feels clunky and that's on purpose. Your cursor moves a lot and the bullets take a while to shoot and reload because you're supposed to get skills preventing that from happening. The game is amazing at deception, like Chihiro's real killer, Sakura's real killer, how we assume there's only 15 students because we started with 15 students, and how we think it's been days since we entered Hope's Peak but it's actually been years. The game uses a lot of flashbacks. I get it for things that happened hours ago, but often it's used for something that happened in the last 5 minutes. When it flashes back to a moment in the trial, it's the character portrait with no voice dialogue, which feels a bit odd. To wrap this up, here's some funny dialogue. Watch out not to wall teleport. Hifumi loves his women 2D. Dragon Ball reference. He has been domesticated.
Are you fucking with us right now?
No, I am not effing with you right now.
Duplication glitch. Emoticons. Check out murdergear.com. Hero's hamburger stolen by some space aliens. What a wacky game. I first found out about Danganronpa in 2020. I was in a Discord server with some friends when this one guy wouldn't stop talking about Chiaki and Nanami. I knew she was from a series called Danganronpa, and I saw they had an anime on Hulu. Since I was a broke boy with no idea on how to emulate yet, I decided to give the anime a shot. At first I was like, oh, okay, that's a cool story. That's a cool premise. What the hell, Sayaka died? I'll never forget the first time I witnessed Leon's execution. I thought they would get a quick and painless death or something, but never in a million years would I suspect him to get pummeled by 1,000 baseballs. I was sad at Chihiro's death, thought Hina killed Sakura, and was confused when Junko was revealed to be the mastermind. I binge watched all 13 episodes of Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc that night, and I fell in love with the series ever since. Except for Ultra Despair Girls. I picked up and dropped that game a lot, I just couldn't get into it like the others. To this day, I still haven't beaten it. My friend told me I should watch the Danganronpa 2 summaries, so I did. I then proceeded to watch all the closing arguments without a care for spoilers. I don't remember where or when I learned all the details about Danganronpa 2 or V3. The most I remember was watching the analysis video in 2020, and sometime between then and 2022 I knew the complete story from all 3 games. Freshman year, I also watched the anime and I loved it. It's extremely gory but answers most unsolved mysteries from both games. In 2021, I ended up buying all 4 games on Steam in a bundle discount for an outrageously cheap price. Sophomore year, I decided to play all the games and I loved it. Despite already knowing all the major twists and who dies when, where, why, and how, I loved every second I had playing the game. Not only did watching the anime rush things that the game clarified, but playing the game allowed me to fully immerse myself in the world of Danganronpa and get a true feel for the battle between hope and despair. Once I beat all the mainline games, I bought all the Danganronpa games on PlayStation for an insanely cheap price. Those memories I had when my journalism teacher left for the whole semester, so I spent all my time in class playing Danganronpa, are memories I cherish with me to this day. There's something comforting about looking back at when I used to play the games and just having a jolly old time. I binge watched Game Grumps, Crystal, and Berlizzi play these games. It was hilarious.
Whoa! Whoa! Feel like tira-dee-da-dee-do. Whoa!
When I hosted my first family-friendly party on my birthday, while setting up the PlayStation outside, I noticed Danganronpa was downloaded, so I played it. When Ramon came over and more friends joined, they were like, oh shit, is that Danganronpa? And we just kind of huddled over the TV for a while until we decided to play some Fortnite. Fun times. To end this segment, I found some old screenshots from when I first watched the anime along with Instagram stories and photos of when I first played the game. I'm f***ing terrified. I'm literally shaking. We get to see their execution. That scene disturbing me so much. I've never been this disturbed. Why do I have a feeling Computer Girl is gonna be killed? Holy shit. Why? I liked her. She was the best out of every girl in my opinion. They just had to kill her. Sad boy hours. Please teach me how you recovered from this anime. I'ma have nightmares now, not gonna lie. I take it back. Computer Girl isn't a girl. I'm prepared for the murder scene. I'm prepared for the murder scene. I'm prepared for the murder scene. Okay, not gonna lie, it wasn't that bad. Compared to being batted to death by baseballs. Man got what he deserved. I'm prepared for the murder scene. I'm prepared for the murder scene. I'm prepared for the murder scene. Okay, that one wasn't that bad either. It's rather calm. Bruh, why is British on the bad guy? Okay, so I finished the anime and who the fuck is Chiaki? He said the thing. GG, bro. That's me, y'all. That's me. Ring, another ring, glasses, G-stick, nothing. Cut around, real quick. Just cut around. Released in America 10 years ago, how does the game hold up today? I think that for the most part, the game holds up pretty well. I would say the only place the game might lack in are visuals and sounds. While I love the aesthetic and OST, most of this love comes from being a fan of the series for years, and knowing where its origins are. Comparing the music and visual style of the PS Vita into today's world, it kinda lacks behind. While that does give it a lot of charm, it doesn't hold up well for itself in today's standards. Another thing is the type of game, visual novel. I don't know if I haven't been looking hard enough or what, but I haven't seen a huge hit visual novel since Doki Doki and V3. These type of games are barely found new nowadays, with most visual novels end up getting ports or remakes. While I feel like Danganronpa's style and gameplay is insanely well made, it would probably get overlooked or not as much appreciation if it was released today compared to when it was out on the PS Vita. However, Danganronpa did create a long-lasting impact on the murder game scene. The only two other huge mystery novel games that come to mind are the Ace Attorney and Professor Layton series. Those two franchises have been carrying the mystery game for years prior to Danganronpa's debut. Having a third new franchise added to the mix with a more adult-heavy theme, killer gameplay, and deadly story is what 2010 mystery novel games needed. Fan base aside, Danganronpa created a long-lasting impact on the killer game genre as it felt new and innovative. It was a fresh breath of air with enough mystery to cool the gaming community. As a result, a sequel was made 2 years later, with a spin-off, anime, 2 of them, a third game, and a second spin-off. Manga and some novels came from this huge success. Danganronpa basically became the new generation of Ace Attorney games, selling over 5 million copies by 2021. While the game might not hold up in the competitive pool of today's gaming, it still holds up well as a solid murder game with deception and plot twist up its sleeve. Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc is a visual murder game where you investigate, interrogate, and prepare for trial. You engage in non-stop debates, pointing out faulty statements, and fire their words back at them to expose their lies. Spike Chunsoft did an incredible job with their first game in the series. Everything from the story, to the gameplay, visuals, and soundtrack feels amazing. While Danganronpa may not fully live up to today's expectations in gaming, it remains as a classic in the visual novel department with major impacts to the mystery gaming community. I personally love the hell out of this game and series. Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc is a masterpiece of a game, which still holds up to itself 10 years later.
No, it's wrong.
Thank you for watching. If you got this far, please like and subscribe. I would like to continue making these 10-year later videos on games I enjoyed playing in my younger years. If you have advice on how to make these videos more entertaining, leave a comment. Making the script and voicing all of this was hard enough, and I know there's always room for improvement. I plan to stream more, upload more games, make an animation, and maybe even have my dad try out Danganronpa. Join the Discord server if you haven't already. With that being said, this video was draining to make. Too much Danganronpa for me. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe, and if you don't mind, I'm going back to playing Persona 3 Reload.